Hey, everybody, so many apologies for that interruption. Thank you for remaining strong and staying, being there for me, even when Zoom kicked me out of this meeting. But I think that it's because they've been doing some work on like the telephone wires and poles and whatnot. So let's just hope that I have enough juice left in the system here to be able to complete the last 15 minutes of this meeting. So we were talking about the amazing revolution that was in art history in the Renaissance of perspective. I bring this up because essentially it's the same shape that you are looking at, but it is your own system of interpretation that adds an additional dimension to something that is flat, that makes you interpret it and see it as if it is rounded, volumetric, and has form, which would be the third dimension. Got it? So everybody up until that point, 1100s, 1200s AD, looked at everything like a flat thing. And it was revolutionary to begin to create paintings and artwork that's like, no, you look into the flat thing as if it's a window and you're looking through it in order to interpret the line structure of what you are seeing as a place in like a magic window, and you're looking into there and it's a place. And so yeah, if you study art history, there's a whole series of paintings that amazingly gifted artists created and helped humanity to evolve their capacity to view and interpret information that went from, like, the Mona Lisa is one of those paintings that it has some background but not like a very deep background, but the artists of the Renaissance learned all about drafting, like engineering, to be able to make a blueprint in your painting so that you've got foreground, midground, and background. The background really looks like it's receding, and all the different things that they did. So they did a lot with lighting, they did a lot with drawing techniques to be able to bring the viewer on a journey. And the destination of the journey was looking at a flat two-dimensional space as if it is a three-dimensional space. This is what you do with your experience of transforming from a star tetrahedron that is, shaped like this in your Merkaba and turning into an octahedron that is shaped like this. And that the journey that you're doing is a change and a shift in your perception, in your interpretation of the raw information and data that is coming to you about reality structure. So you are, again, restructuring your physical cellular body into becoming these perfect forms that are complementary to the matrices of 8 as opposed to the matrices of 6. Now this is why I'm happy that I have juice left in the cell phone to be able to complete this teaching, because you have to be able to comprehend and understand what is going on with this flower of life. That's not the daisy of death. It's only the daisy of death if you just get part of the strudel recipe. So first of all, this is a double torus. Torus itself is a very profound and multi-layered, significant shape. And you have one at the horizontal angle, and then you have one that is implied at the vertical angle in this particular sculpture. And in this particular sculpture, where I'm wiggling my finger, that is the negative space. Negative does not mean bad, wrong, or evil in the world of art and talking about sculptures and forms. The positive space is the stuff that informs the negative space, and the negative space is receptive, kind of like the downward facing pyramid of your structure that is receptive. There's stuff that can be there. So in this shape, the receptive or negative space areas are shaped like this. This is my very, very old, very, very crude sculpture, but it's made out of like child's clay, but it has somehow survived all these different moves and adventures that I've been on, and so it's pretty sturdy stuff. You can see here the front of the sculpture. Let's count these lobes. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're exactly like this sculpture, painting, use the right word, that you see over my shoulder here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like the wings of a butterfly. They are very, very similar. These are your time wings, or this is you as a higher dimensional form, higher dimensional version of self, an angelic form. This is what you're shaped like. And you don't just have, wait, I'm trying to hold this in exactly the right way. You don't just have 4 of these lobe shapes. You're actually seeing the front of something in cross section. When I turn it around like this, you can see what I'm doing. I'm actually holding on to 4 that are behind you here. So you actually have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. You have 8 of these shapes. You have a bridge that needs to happen between the world of hexagons, water crystals, carbon crystals, your physical somatic cellular body, and the initial proliferation of cells that came from the conception moment in your own body. Stuff that's based in 6 with stuff that is based in 8. How do you do that? You turn this sculpture so that it's shaped just like that. If I just zhuzh this just a little bit. There we go. Let's count. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The radial spokes of this form, when you are looking at it as a flattened object. You can also practice looking at something as a flattened object. If you are binocular and you have 2 functional eyes, cover up one of your eyes. So actually the camera that is it is a monocular camera on all of our cell phones and everything like that does this flattening out for us. If you were here in my physical studio, I would say just cover up one eye and you look at this and it looks flattened. That's the flower of life. These spokes that go around the edge like the petals of a daisy. The limited information that is not given to you, that is intentionally diminished to keep you running on the hamster wheel of life, is this part that I'm pointing at, that points forward towards the camera, and also, I'm going to turn it around for you, this part that points towards me away from the camera. Those are the next higher dimensional aspects of this sculpture. That if I was only going to show you a portion of this sculpture, if I'm just going to cut the flat plane, I'm just going to take like a giant knife. I'm just going to cut this part off. Shoop. And I'm going to cut this back part off. Shoop. Then you're only getting this plane of existence and looking at it as if it is a flattened object. Then you will get the daisy of death. A very, very limited, non-fulfilling recipe for the structure of life. So whenever you look at the flower of life and you can see like, well, wait, like that's not complete. That doesn't contain all of the information. It is up to you, the viewer, to begin mentally adding in this protruding layer of reality, and this protruding layer of reality just protrudes towards me away from the camera. Would be considered another dimension or another 2 dimensions of what this sculptural form actually is. That if I draw this box for you that looks like, a flat line drawing here, let's draw it out. Better to talk with pictures. It's what's going on. I gotta press buttons. I don't know what's happening. Help me. All right, let's choose a good color. Here, first let's draw a hexagon. I knew that was going to happen. I'm like, wait, this is not going to work. You can't see anything if it's so skinny. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right? That is the outer perimeter that creates a hexagon. Now I will make it look like a flat thing. There used to be this game called Trivial Pursuit that had these game pieces that looked exactly like this. Looks flat, all right? Looks like a flat thing, like a whatever, kind of a hexagonal pizza or pies with, things cut out of it, right? Now let's draw it so that it looks like an actual cube. Here's the top of the cube. So we've got front face, side face, and then a different color. Oop, wait, go back. I'm just trying to change colors. Top face. You're like, that's amazing, Aurora. That looks exactly like a cube. Yes, it does. It's the same exact perimeter, but in order for you to interpret it as a cube, what I had to do was different levels of line, usage, and shading. But really, it is up to you. I'm going to draw a big giant eyeball here. You and the viewer, your viewpoint is what makes something that is on a flat surface and pretty much the same perimeter shape look like a cube. You are adding a dimension with your mind. You are adding a dimension with your perception, making it feel to you as if this corner is popping forward to you off of the screen, and making it look and feel as if this corner is going away from you on the screen, even though intellectually you know that that is all stuck flat on a screen. Oh, we'll get to a question that you've got about black holes and white holes. It's a good question. With the flower of life, if you have this flower of life shape, there we go, roughly, that you're seeing, with these radial spokes going around the edge, it is up to you, the viewer, to add this protrusion that is coming towards the camera. Be like, oh, that's that lobe shape that's there, and there's another lobe shape there that are just simply not drawn. The drawing is incomplete. And also, you'll start to recognize my football shapes or lobe shapes are a little fatter, are a little chunkier than the flower of life drawings, the way that they are shown, the incomplete drawings, the daisy of death. They're shown as kind of skinnier, more elongated shapes. That's all that you have to know in order to be able to be free. Because to do that shift that is from star tetrahedron to octahedron, or to be able to use the Merkaba as a tool for interdimensional travel, as opposed to, I'm spinning on the hamster wheel, I'm just protecting myself. The change is a shift in your perspective. It is a shift and refinement and a maturation or leveling up of your perspective, not an adding or subtracting of actual stuff. Let me just now make sure that I get through everything that's important. I'm scanning my notes here. Flower of life, not as a flat thing, but as a dimensional object. And this actually matters in terms of your DNA behavior, because when you imagine things and envision certain things and have certain thought forms, your DNA behaves differently. So if you envision certain things, then your DNA will be behaving in a way that keeps you stuck in one dimension. And if you envision other things with your mind and with your imagination, your DNA will have a different, more volumetric form that will also allow you to go through the frequency door. We got all of that for protection and for travel. Nonlinear travel, transferring from one timeline or time context to another context, and that this has to do with a practice of perspective, working with the rules of higher dimensional reality. You have to have stable structures, because there's a language and a grammar and a syntax to all of the shapes that you are working with. Why is an egg integral? Why does it have integrity? Why does a soap bubble have integrity? And the answer to these basic shapes and forms is that they have a coherence. They don't collapse. And if you do not create shapes that have this stability in their structure, it's like creating a non-grammatical, poor syntax in your language structuring of your body, including your subtle layers of your body, and then the body collapses. It collapses under the enormous pressures of the turbulence of the flow of time. When you are exposed to the fire hose of information that is in hyperspace of these different vectors of energy flowing through the time field, what happens is, if you don't have a well-formed structure, your structure collapses. That's everything that you want to be doing in life, is creating a viable structural container of both concepts and belief systems and energy patterns and thought patterns that will sustain you, even if you are no longer in the physicality presence, having transcended it either through death or through the ascension process. So I already did talk. So, okay, it's like being an architect, and you have to follow the rules if you want to create a reality structure. If you want to create a building that stands up, you have to follow the rules of architecture. And if you want to create a reality structure, like, again, if you're wishing for ice cream, so I'll get into some fun stories. I'll just tell one. If you're wishing for ice cream, that's a reality structure. And if you're being self-centered or like a spoiled brat or capricious, like, but I want the ice cream now, then you can destabilize the entirety of the time field, because you've got to have your ice cream now. That's really, really important to comprehend, that your life and your desires and the fulfillment of your own personal desires is appropriate, but that you exist within a larger context. That contextualization is the mitigation of your own individualized ego state into unity consciousness. Because in the end, what you really want is what is best for all. You don't just want to have ice cream at the expense of the entirety of the fabric of the cosmos. It's like you can have ice cream, but it's going to destabilize the fabric of the space-time continuum. Then you will have nothing. You don't want that. Of course you don't want that. And the cosmic chef knows that you don't want that either. So any of these wishes or intentions that you create with your Merkaba structure, you end up learning. You go through that stage 2 level of learning where you're like, not only did I thought that I wanted this, but I actually wanted this, but I definitely did not want to destabilize the fabric of space-time continuum. Let me make my wishes more carefully. Let me be an architect of reality and create and structure my realities that I'm emanating and embodying in a much finer way. And this is the learning process. Don't worry, you get protection on your learning process. And then the final thing is transferring your consciousness intentionally between these different reality structures or timeline jumping. So you guys want to hear my fun anecdote. I usually have shared this in the non-recorded portions of this class. I don't think that I'm going to endanger anyone by sharing this. Like the names and the identities of these characters have all been changed and shifted. I'm joking about some kind of like expose or whatever. But this is me, like let's say around 2006, when I was still more of like a starving or struggling artist, and was very much like that's it, like I'm done, like I don't have enough money, I just want to have a lot of money, be able to buy stuff and go places and get stuff done. I was feeling very limited in the sense of money, very frustrated, right? And so I sat down in my Merkaba, like with so much attitude, and I just spun my Merkaba and I just envisioned lots of cash falling in my lap. All right, like kind of a little bit spoiled, right? And then literally like maybe a day later, it wasn't even that long, much longer after that, there was a knock on my door, and it was someone that I knew from around town. And they were like, hey, do you mind if I just come inside for a minute? And they were looking all shifty, like, sure, come on in. And they had a suitcase that they wanted me to just keep in my closet, my front coat closet, and be like, Jeff, just hold on to this suitcase for me for just an unarticulated, unexplained reason, and I'll get back to you. Like, yeah, sure, okay, fine. And they left, and of course, it's like burning a hole in my eyes. I kept looking at the closet. I'm like, I have to know what's in the suitcase. I have to know what's in the suitcase. And I opened up the suitcase, and it was full of cash. Full of cash. Suitcase full of cash. Now, this is why, like, the names of the participants have been blurred so that you don't know what's going on here, but you can only imagine the type of activities that I have nothing to do with, of course, that would make a person have a suitcase full of cash. And I realized like my Merkaba had come true, and I had definitely generated a large amount of cash that fell in my lap. But here are the problems. It was not under good circumstances. It was not something that was really mine, like in freedom, to be able to use and spend joyfully. It was something that was burdensome, dangerous, whatever could have led down a lot of negative timelines, and that was not helpful to me in my life. It's like, oh, like you forgot to say, like, I want to eat ice cream on Tuesday in a blue dish, and I don't want it to be poisonous. Don't want to become incarcerated as a result of it. I don't want any of this. I don't want any of that. So I kind of learned, like, okay, and a couple of days later, friend came back. It's like, hey, still have that suitcase? Great. I'm ready to take it back now. Okay, thanks. They got their suitcase. Off they went. Never spoke of it again. But that was such a wonderful learning experience because, again, I come from a place where, yes, we used Merkaba, but we didn't have money. We didn't have commodification. We didn't have a lot of the things that are challenges that you face in this world where you have to have the food room, the grocery store, the magical pieces of paper, money that allow you to access the food room and so much more. So yeah, it's been a learning curve for me to learn about how to effectively make wishes and do reality co-creation within this world of ego competition and commodification, and be respectful to the larger structures of the fabric of time, space, and reality. So that was what I really learned about in terms of that. So yes, you can definitely make wishes or Merkabas that are about your physical sustenance, but what you just realize is you don't want to be physically sustained at the expense of another person, or in a way that destabilizes human society, or in a way that causes the destruction of the fabric of space-time reality, or causes death, or any of those types of negative things. So in using your Merkaba, it's always appropriate to put these little asterisks at the bottom, like footnote, I make these requests in full freedom, not taking anything from anyone else, not to destabilize the fabric of time-space consciousness, but in the sustenance of the fabric of time-space consciousness, because your success leads to the success of the larger context that you are within. But you make these wishes respectfully, so you kind of learn about that. And then, of course, when you use your Merkaba for interdimensional travel, and I'll get more into this in the more extensive teaching down the road, I'm like a driver's instructor, and if you're on a learner's permit, I want to make sure that first of all, like, put on your safety belt, right? What's the gas and what's the brake, right? How to lock the vehicle, because you don't want to just drive your vehicle to a bad part of town and leave your vehicle unlocked. Someone else is going to steal it. How about how not to get carjacked? How about making sure that you've got enough gas in your gas tank to get to where you want to go and get back home safely? How about having a map so that you know where you're going, avoid the bad places in town, bad neighborhoods, and get home safely? So in terms of traveling in your Merkaba, what's a bad neighborhood that you want to avoid? The lower astral. The lower astral realm is full of the biggest caca and doo-doo that you do not want to have to interact with. It's even worse than like whatever, the Times Square. If you go to Times Square, it's, whatever. This is also from many years ago. I haven't been in New York City for a long time, but it's kind of in the center of New York City, and it was renowned as like a place full of pickpockets, prostitutes, pimps, weirdos, criminals of all sorts, and then silly innocent visitors that walk around like, la la la, I'm looking at all the lights, wow, I'm in Times Square. Well, meanwhile, someone else is like picking your pocket, or someone's got you, trying to defraud you in some way. So you have to know not to go to bad neighborhoods, and the lower astral is definitely considered a bad neighborhood that is full of negative thought entities and those who are interested in exploiting your ignorance, your innocence, or any vulnerability that you might possibly have. And don't go there as a beginner driver. And experienced drivers are like, I'm not going to the lower astral realm. That place sucks. That place sucks. Stay away from it. And also, you will not meet the best people in the lower astral. This is also like when I lived in Woodstock, there was a center of our town where the bus stop was. And if you can hang out there all day, you'll meet a lot of people. But you will not meet the best people. You will meet people that are like day drinking, like drinking a beer in a paper bag. You will meet people that are insane or not positively engaged. Like, why are they sitting at a bus stop all day? You will meet some people that are just travelers coming from place to place. You will meet some people that are specifically there to try to like hustle you in some way. And you're not going to be invited to like the best parties in a mansion by sitting on the bus stop in the middle of town. That is not how you meet the best people, all right? So it's the same thing in the world of spiritual attainment. When you have your Merkaba and you're able to go into an octahedron and you're able to go from dimension to dimension, and you have to have a map of where you want to go, you have to know that you want to avoid certain areas, which are frequency zones, and you know that you want to gravitate or align with other areas or frequency zones that are filled with the type or exemplify the type of consciousness that you want to be in. The cosmic dance party. That is loving, love tone. Love and above. Everybody here is cool. I have all of these songs for a reason. A song called Everybody Here is Cool. You want to go to the type of party where you don't have to worry about being pickpocketed, where you're not going to worry about putting down your purse or your backpack and someone's going to like rifle through your stuff and see if you have any pills that they can take, right? You want to go to the type of upscale dwelling where no one's going to steal from you. Everyone already has what they need. They would never steal from you, and they're also trustworthy, and they're also interested in some kind of a greater level of interactivity than merely like, hey kid, what do you got? Can I get something from you? Can I sell something to you? Oh, I forgot about that, like the idea of whatever, unsavory people trying to sell you questionable substances, questionable illegal substances. That doesn't happen at the better parties. And at the better parties, there will be like, here is good food. It is offered to you as a guest. And then also like, who are you and what would you like to share with all the other guests here? That's the cosmic dance party that you actually want to be in alignment with. And I'll also say, this is just brief, but a lot of people want to know about my feelings about like DMT and ayahuasca and psilocybin and all these different things. And I'm trying to tell you, I'm not judgmental about these things, but they are training wheels at best, and they don't have enough oomph in terms of your rocket propulsion into the astral realm to get you out of the bad neighborhoods. They pretty much propel you into the astral, directly into the bad neighborhoods, where you will then find exploiters galore. And some of those exploiters will say something like, I'm a spirit guide, I'm a teacher, listen to me, or even, I'm Jesus Christ, listen to me. They're imposters. They're not really loving. They're not really that which they purport to be, but they're very, very happy to exploit you, take your energy, take your attention, waste your time, and then you get sent back home pickpocketed and often like full of parasites, because they'll also fill you with a lot of nonsense that's not truthful. And then you come back from that rocket ship ride and you're like, I saw this and this and this, and they told me this and this and this, and it's straight poop. It's totally not worthwhile at all. So that is my caution on all of that stuff, especially in this time, which is so fraught, when everyone is dealing with synthetic telepathy, which is its own stratum within the astral realm. It's its own encapsulating layer of consciousness that you have to kind of break through to get to the true cosmic dance party. Just, I don't really know anyone at this point right now, because Earth is under such a heavy blanket of inundation that is really getting past the frequency pupola and getting into levels of clarity, of thought, and of perception, and true love-based beings and divine guidance. All right? And it's just part of the system of what's going on right now, that you're just blanketed in this frequency poop, making it very, very difficult to be able to get into these higher dimensional realms for sustenance. And that's not by accident, that is on purpose. And also it is why I do Flying Rainbow Lasagna. I jump over the poop-ola and get to my home world, and I already have the map of how to get there because it's where I come from. So I vibrate back and forth, and I jump back and forth to be able to get the groceries from the store, positive inspiration and new ideas, and bring it into this world, and then I make it available to people here. That's because you might not be able to get out very effectively. So wait, I just want to check my notes one more time and just make sure, because I'm like a big checker. Let's check it. Let's check again. Let's check 3 times. This is what I have written. Flying through space and time through hyperspace realities, and the verbal translation of that experience would be, I steer my life by having my chakras aligned in different positions. This is big because as we move through this class and all of my materials, you also come to recognize and know that there's stuff that's on the membrane of death smeared within your chakras. That's not actually you. That sometimes makes your chakras wibble wobble wildly out of position, aligning you with realities that you would never voluntarily align with. Very, very distressing. It's been going on for a long time in the human experience, and it is extremely prevalent in this time now. But the affirmation and empowerment teaching is, quote unquote, I steer my life by having my chakras aligned in different positions. And it's essential as you're moving towards spiritual attainment and mastery for you to learn how to steer your chakras so that you go towards the realities that you want to go through. Because I don't just want you to go through a frequency door and be like, this place is even worse than the other place. You know what I mean? Or I'm disappointed. How in the world did I get here? I want you to be empowered, and empowerment and choices and consent has everything to do with being informed. Get your Christ chakra functional so that you can actually see where you're going. It's like having a windshield. And if you've ever lived in the Northeast, because I'm thinking back to my time in Woodstock, we would have these frozen winters where you just cars covered in ice in the morning. And then what you do is you defrost like a tiny little spot. You kind of like chip off a tiny little spot, and you're driving along like this. You're looking like, through the windshield like, where am I going? Where am I going? I have a tiny little view. That's not ideal. It's not safe. What you want to do is have a nice clear windshield, your Christ chakra, to be able to see and sense the future and the landscape of the multidimensional reality and be guided effectively through the possibilities and probabilities and event structures of reality, some of which include receiving ice cream on a Tuesday, others of which include eating a nice healthy grilled piece of salmon, or sometimes lasagna if that's what you really are committed to. Balanced transfer of energy, symmetry. This is part of the egg shape and why these polygons are shaped the way they are. You co-create within the limits of keeping yourself balanced. Reality will be a combination of the specifics and the non-specifics of some unpredictable outcomes and some surprises. So this is all part of maintaining the integrity of the structure of reality. Specifics and non-specifics, things that you know and can anticipate, and things that you could not know and could not anticipate, and some of which are spontaneously generated in the moment. And it is a fine art. Merkaba, as I'm teaching about it, this is an art form, different than the sense of getting into your clank clank metal spaceship. Press a button, engage, go, dilithium crystals, go. This is different than that. This is an art form. This is like when you have to dance and move and be incredibly focused and self-responsible about what you're doing and where you're going. And then when I showed you that picture, vessel, we can go back to it if you want me to, but I have to wrap it up soon. Vessel is a vessel that is a living ship that is comprised of many, many Merkabas or Merkabim, that you master your individual vessel. You master the shape of your own life, but you also master moving together as a group. And that is what you start to see. Wait. So consciousness ship. Vessel is about a consciousness ship, a living ship. And I have a song about that too, called The Ship is Alive. It's a lot of music. Listen to my music, guys. The ship is alive. It has metabolism, and it is amalgamation of all of the inhabitants of the ship. So again, we are used to like, this is me. I am Captain Jean-Luc Picard. I'm in charge. All of you, shut up. I'm running this ship. All right, this is Star Trek. And then he sits down in his chair. Says, engage. Dilithium crystals, go. And the ship zooms off where it's supposed to go. The ship doesn't have a choice. The inhabitants of the ship don't have a choice. They're like, la, 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 I'm doing my thing. Captain is making it all happen. I'm sitting in my high chairs. I'm eating space Cheerios. That guy makes it happen. Very, very different than a group Merkaba, where each person is individually responsible to themselves and their own trajectory and the shape of their own life, and all of your lives and the events of your lives mesh together in a group dynamic. And that is very much what I try to cultivate when I do my Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance movement class. Each one of us are in our Merkabas individually, and we are also making these movements through time. So for example, I'm not sharing too much if I say that one of the participants in my class moved to, I think it's Ecuador. They moved to Ecuador. All of us didn't move to Ecuador, but they did. It's part of the shape of their life. Their movement in time-space complements the rest of the things that are happening in our lives and dynamics. Our lives are connected through information and through social caring about one another and through esoteric energy. And you root for another person to go in a positive direction in their life. So you want someone to like move to a good neighborhood, have a good job, have a good social network, have positive experiences there because they're part of your ship. You get it? But we don't all necessarily live in the same neighborhood. We don't do the exact same thing synchronized at the exact same time. So there is a group intention where the larger vehicle is going, journeying with others on the soul's migration. The larger ship of consciousness is like a larger soul that is going someplace. And let's say the someplace is a good place, the cosmic dance party, where you are surrounded by higher dimensional presences and non-physical presences that are super loving, love tone. You're not afraid to put down your purse. No one's going to steal your purse. You're not afraid of whatever, getting like raped or anything, no violence or anything like that. That's a no-brainer. That even goes without being said there. And you also are experiencing the most wonderful, fulfilling experiences. But this is much more like if you have ever ridden a horse. You're like, okay, like you get on top of a horse and you say to a horse, like, go. I'm Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Go in that direction. And the horse looks at you and is like, no, actually, I think I'm going to meander over here. There's some grass that I want to eat. Then I'm going to go over here. Then I'm going to chew some grass. Then I'm going to poop. Then I'll think about going in the direction that you suggested. It's a living ship. The overall Merkaba, which is comprised of many smaller Merkabas, is a living ship of intention. It is a group intention. And being able to cultivate this is like being able to create or cultivate a spore or a seed that jumps off of this planet in true form of how experts do star travel, to like my Aurora Collective travel as a traveling collective that has a destination and also individuation. So you're balancing out again those specific desires with also receptivity. The stuff that I want for me, the stuff that is wanted for me, the stuff that I want for others, the stuff that is wanted for this group experience by the world. It is a balancing. And part of what you learn in this school that you're in right now that's called physical embodiment is balancing out the desires and requirements of yourself as an individual. I won't say versus, but I will say in contrast with the respecting the requirements of community and environment. You're like, I'm hungry. I want to eat food. Good. But you can't eat all the food, because if you do, everything will die. You can have some of the food, but not all of the food. And that's good. And so you learn, like, okay, I want to have some money, but I don't want to take the money away from other people. I want everyone else to have the money they need too. I want this, but I also want everyone to have what they need. I want this, but I want everyone to have what they need. You can think about that as one of these major lessons of soul maturation, and it is necessary for being able to create this complex reality structure of interpenetrating and complementary lives where you're getting what you need and you're not stepping on anybody else's toes, and also everyone else is getting what they need, and they celebrate and feed into your reality structures. So again, I'm going to read that again. The living vessel is a group intention. The larger vehicle is you're journeying with others on a soul's migration, that you are journeying in terms of into greater levels of refinement. I had to squeeze my eyes to kind of get the right word. Maturation and evolution. You are all evolving together. And just to contrast, like that's very different than like when I lived in San Diego. I lived in a beautiful oceanfront community that was full of people that were in total self-destruction. A lot of them were homeless, and a lot of them were on substances where they were just like flushing their lives down the toilet. They were not going towards evolution. They were not prepared to be part of a living ship group dynamic, because they were in devolving, not evolving. They were in destruction, not construction. And so you have to be selective about which individuals or groups you are aligned with. If you're going towards the cosmic dance party, you got to make sure everyone else has the same similar destination, because otherwise there will not be structural integrity within that actual ship, within that actual vessel. So it's creating a cosmic band. It's creating a group dynamic that is about reciprocity. Love tone is about reciprocity and support, and also quantum observership. As you witness someone else on their journey, they also witness you on your journey, and you sustain one another reciprocally. My dog witnesses me on my journey, and I witness her on her journey. We are in a little shared Merkaba together. And then you can envision the other people that I know in town, the people that I know that I'm connected to in friendship, people that I know on social media, beautiful people that are in this class. You witness me on my journey, and I also witness you. As much as you share with me about what your life dynamics are like, I see you and I witness you in your life. And we're moving towards this culmination, which is planetary ascension, which again, people that are on board for that, on board, quote unquote, are moving towards their personal ascension, their personal spiritual attainment, and also the attainment of the entirety of this planet and larger galactic structures. And that moving towards those levels of attainment means like, I want this. I want ice cream on Tuesday. I want ascension on Tuesday. But then there might be some aspect of the larger fabric of reality that the chef of the universe or the cosmos says, I know you want it on Tuesday, but it's not going to be on Tuesday because I have something better in mind, which was that echo to that teaching from the Sweat Lodge. Very, very beautiful, loving, and compassionate cosmos that sometimes says, not yet. I have something better in mind. So please be philosophical in your expectations as you begin working with direct energy patterning in this way. So now, thank you for that. That's the completion of my notes. And now opening the floor to any questions. Lisa Metro, thank you for being here. Going back a little ways, asked, what about black and white holes? Asked specifically, black and white holes balanced. So here's the deal, and I'm going to have a whole teaching about this because I've been learning more about black holes. So I have a class that's called Path of Light, and it's usually on Saturday mornings. And I did that for a couple of months, running it for like, four consecutive weeks. And I'm just now coming up with a new curriculum that's Path of Light 2. That is really all about black holes, because Path of Light is about the journey of what light is doing as a particle and as a wave, and where it's going and what it's experiencing. And I didn't focus enough in part 1, and I started to think and question and wonder, like, what about black holes? And this is me, and like my hobby is thinking about black holes. And I wake up in the morning and I'm boiling water in my kettle to make some coffee. I'm like, yeah, but what about black holes? And they're different than the way that objective materialist science perceives and describes them, and that's because mostly they're perceived and described through the ESP, extrasensory perception, known as math. High-level convoluted math calculations is how most human objective materialist scientists know about and think about black holes. But what I do is I reach out my tendril of attention to the black hole, that's a supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy, and I'm like, I want to know stuff. Can I know about stuff? And I want to know about this, and I want to know about this. And so I ask a bunch of questions, but then a lot of times my questing is like chef's choice. You don't really want to know about this. You think you want to ask this question and know about this, but what you really want to know about is this over here. So I'm like asking all these questions, and I'm like, okay, I want to know about this, this, and this. It's like, but what you really want to know about is gold. I'm like, okay, gold. And I started to learn about gold, and I started to learn about nucleogenesis, which is the perception of how atomic structure is created within the process of evolution of what we know as a sun. So in that song that I wrote called Symphony of Life, I say, you come here and you're a perfect little child, and your DNA is doing a particular dance, the dance of immortality, and you don't even conceive of death. And then someone tells you about what death is, and all of a sudden your DNA does a new dance that encompasses and accepts the reality structure of death and mortality. And in that song I say, you learn that even stars can die. And in the level of mortality that we inhabit post Atlantis, or as the catastrophe in Atlantis is unfolding concurrently, yes, there is mortality of your physical form, cell death. Like, no, cells don't die, but you want some cells to die because they're done. Sometimes you want cells to die and be like, die, get out of here, and then we'll have stem cells and make new cells. But when your body functions the way it was intended to, according to the brochure, you don't have cell death. You don't have to worry about apoptosis, and you don't have to worry about like angiogenesis or any of these other aspects of creating the proliferation of new cells, because your body and your cellular structure acts completely differently. Even stars in this present level of reality where there is mortality, instead of saying that they die, let's say that they evolve. It's a better way of saying it. So I should change that song, but it is what it is. Stars don't die, but they do evolve. They evolve from the level of their being, the era when they are emitters of light on its journey, and they are also emitters of time, possibilities, and probabilities and reality structures, and then they become receivers. In the era of what a star becomes as a black hole, it is essentially receiving. Get inside of me. Stuff comes back to me. Stuff comes inside of me. It's a different level of being and a different definition of being than when the stars were emitting and sending a lot of stuff out. There's not better or worse. There's just the complement of these vectors that you can be proliferating, kind of like gushing stuff and making stuff happen, but then you can also be receiving. And that's actually a beautiful hat tip to the balanced structure of the Merkaba, where you have stuff, you're like, I want to make this stuff happen, but then you're like receptive, you're like, I'm open to this surprising stuff happen. So when you talk about black holes and white holes being balanced, that is how I am perceiving this in answering your question, that there's a balance in the world of light being emitted or sent on its journey, doing stuff, going places, having experiences, accruing wisdom. The whole purpose of reality is to learn, period. Everything that is here is learning. Matter is learning. Energy is learning. It is evolving. It's a better way of saying it. To evolve. You are here embodied as a human to evolve. You evolve on a soul level. My dog is here evolving. This piece of obsidian rock is here evolving. Energy is evolving. Time is evolving. Light is evolving. So light goes through these various different journeys for the process of evolution, and part of that evolution is what it is to be a sun, which the sun is not the conductor at the center of the galaxy. That's the supermassive black hole. So supermassive black hole, that's a pretty smart guy or gal. That's someone who is so smart they are able to orchestrate an almost uncountable number of suns, billions and billions of sun stars, and all of the reality generation structures that those individual stars are doing in a synchronized harmony, which is what music is. Music! The stars are making music! They're working together. The stars are working together as a giant band, a giant symphony complementing their creations and what they are sending out. And the supermassive black hole at the center of the galaxy holds it all together. It's the ultimate stick together. It's like, I'm keeping everyone together, keeping you on the beat, keeping you relevant, keeping the dynamics effectively woven together and complementary, so that there is a coherence and stick-togetherness and structure and longevity. Otherwise, everything and reality structures would fling wildly off in all directions, and you wouldn't actually have a galaxy, and you wouldn't have reality structure the way that you presently know it. So again, these experiences that you have as a single individuated human on planet Earth right now relate to the evolution of your soul as you learn to balance out your needs and desires and requirements as an individual with the needs, desires, and requirements of how to sustain and uphold reality. So that reality is still a place, so that you still have a place to live, a time world within which to have all of these amazing structures, freedoms, experiences. You don't burn down the whole house because, you want to do what you want to do. So it's definitely moving in those levels of evolution. So I hope that speaks to your question, because technically we don't call them a white hole, but we call it a star, sun star, which is a portal, which is a place that is singularity. But in my teachings coming up for Path of Light 2, and I'll start that class in another couple of weeks, because you just can't rush lasagna. It's got to bubble in the oven. And my lasagna is still bubbling in the oven, where I'm learning from the black hole at the center of the galaxy about what these structures are. The portal that is the singularity that is at the center of the sun, or at the center of you and your chakras, is a non-optical light body or time body that's different than the gravitational structure that is the singularity from the stretching of the fabric of space-time continuum. That is what a black hole is. So making that distinction. But the emission portal of a sun, you could think of it as the epicenter of the sun, like, the Tootsie Roll center at the center of a Tootsie Pop. But it is also the center of every single photonic expression. If there is a chemical reaction that happens that emits photon as the balance of the equation, that is portal also. So portal is physical epicenter, or imagined physical epicenter, but portal is also photonic reaction. The doorway through which a photon enters reality is a frequency. Door, 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 door. All right. I think that's a good place to end. I'm going to be a little bit short in terms of what I'm doing, just because I'm on my cell phone. I set it up as a hotspot. I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi. I don't know why things happened. I hope that the beginning recording of this awesome class came out. I will wrap it up for right now. I will say thank you so much. Thank you for your excellence, your thought questing, and sharing your thoughts and insights here in class. I'm always excited and happy for your perspectives and to be able to to answer or speak to those questions and comments. Thank you for standing strong even when my internet connection went kablooey. And I love teaching this class, and I love you as students, and thank you very much for coming here and spending your paying attention, spending your attention on these concepts and on these thoughts. So next week, we're going to bounce back to level 1 teaching. It's going to be level 1, lesson 2, and it's actually a big, long 4-part teaching that has, because there's so much good stuff, I couldn't even just put it into 2 half-hour segments. It's 4 half-hour segments, and it's all about this shape, the primacy of what this shape is, how this shape relates to electromagnetism. It's so chock full. There's so much good stuff. And so happy goodness to me, because I did my job and I migrated everything from Teachable to Vimeo. Yes, it took hours. It was really, really difficult. I had to download and then upload all these videos. So because Teachable changed, I've been on Teachable for 10 years. So if you're an original student and you're looking for those recorded whiteboards on Teachable, they might still be there, they might not. I don't know if they're going to go bye-bye or what's going to happen, but I saved all of them and brought them over to Vimeo. So there's a fresh, hot lasagna bubbling on the stove on Vimeo, and I made certain to share that with everyone who's a part of this class. It's Vimeo Showcase 1 and Vimeo Showcase 2. Pedro says, love the laggy lasagna. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for Merkaba-ing us so that Pedro did a good job of turning a bad situation to a better situation. That's like when I'm overdrafted at the bank. So this is perfect. Like if your internet connection cuts out because they're doing some kind of fixing on the telephone poles in the middle of your class, the best possible situation is that everyone stays on board. I'm able to get my cell phone hooked up, and then I hop back in, and we continue the lesson as it was meant to be. And then you're also sometimes open to chef's choice, which could be just like complete unpredictability. But good job on lasagnaing the situation, because you never know. You never know how things are going to go. Maybe what if my phone didn't work? What if my phone didn't have batteries? What if an alligator ate my phone? Any of these things could have happened, and that would have prevented us from finishing our class properly. So putting the Merkaba around finishing the class and the stable internet connection is absolutely crucial. And then you start to see how Merkaba is actually a really powerful reality shaping tool, where you're not just sitting in the high chair eating your Cheerios. If something goes wrong, if there's a problem, you can be like, I actually have a tool. Wait, I've got a tool for that. And it's the Swiss Army knife of tools. Like, you can do a lot with this. Get creative, be imaginative, mitigate your individual desires for the desires of the cosmos, but also be responsive to the situation. That's the difference between being a child in your high chair, being like, la, 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 there's nothing I can do. I'll just sit here doing nothing. And then being the mature citizen, which is where you're like, wait, I'm aware that there is something that is not going properly. I can put Merkaba around that situation and add positive intention to the proper rectification of that situation. Pedro and I have talked about this a lot. He has great ideas in class about putting a Merkaba around our planet. Yes, big yes. The answer is there's already a giant, beautiful, nourishing, and protective force field around our planet and around the process of planetary ascension. When you put a Merkaba around the planet with your own envisionment, you add to an ongoing, let's say, mural or public artwork, a group sculpture that is happening, and then everyone is like, yeah, we like that. Come add your energy to this. It's different than a group meditation. I usually caution people against group meditations where it's just kind of like, all right, everybody, at 5 p.m., everybody meditate, because you got to really, it's like creating a slush fund. Like if you have a charity, it's like, everybody give $5 to this charity. You have to be like, okay, who's the treasurer? And what is this money going to be spent for? And, where's the accountability? Your skepticism should come up, because you don't want to get taken for a ride, because you're not going to get pickpocketed in the lower astral because you're smart, right? When you meditate in a group meditation, that's an opportunity for you to get pickpocketed. Sometimes you don't just give $5. Sometimes they take your whole wallet. And they're like, I feel so drained. It's because, yes, you were in a group meditation. They took all your money. Then they spent it on nonsense. And then nothing happened. So you don't want that to happen. You got to be really protective of your resources. So when you participate in something that is an ongoing Merkaba that's already around our planet, and then you put your energy or your individual Merkaba around the planet, you put your specific desires. You're like, okay, I want to protect the planet from what? I want to move the planet towards something better reality structure. Towards what? You get to be specific. You're like, oh, I don't want to have any more stupid wars. don't want to have any more stupid diseases. Let's get rid of cancer. Let's get rid of 5G. Let's make sure that people have the basics of their food and their shelter and all these other things, and that they're able to jump off into much more imaginative pursuits. Let's fix the money dynamic. Let's fix this and that. These are not just, errant fantasies like la la la, wouldn't that be nice? That's the child in the high chair type of analogy. This is the empowered galactic adult, where you recognize your mind is actually affecting reality. P.S. You're God. Your mind is actually creating reality. You're on the journey of God's self-remembrance, and you are learning to be super responsible with your mind and your thought structures and your capacity to generate reality. So you don't have to learn to be God or encompass that responsibility level by next Tuesday. You're on a journey. It takes as long as it takes. But as you're on that journey of self-remembrance, you're like, wait a minute, my back just went up. Wait a minute, guys. Like, I can do stuff. Yes, you could do stuff. I can make stuff better. You can make stuff better. In fact, not only can you make stuff better, you are mandated or expected to make stuff better as you're able to perceive and comprehend reality and the flaws in reality. It is part of your job joy to envision those reality structures getting fixed. And if there's ever an inner critic that says, usually with its hands on its fist like that, hands on its hips like this, who do you think you are to try to change reality? That is not the thought structure that you go with. Is, who do you think you're not? Or who do you think you are not to change reality? Basically, you have to think of yourself as an empowered person responsible to change reality. You can't think of yourself as, la la la, I'm just a passenger, don't blame me, backing away slowly, it's somebody else's job. You must think of yourself. Who are you not to change and fix social dynamics in this world, such as racism, or out of balance gender roles, or unfair social dynamics, unfair economic disadvantages, or any impending doom structure such as AI taking over the world? Who are you not to fix that stuff? You must fix that stuff. You must be part of the giant co-creative mechanism of rectifying and healing reality structures. And that is part of your soul refinement journey, and also part of the larger wisdom accrual of your life of being here. Yes, Charlie B's got a question, and thank you for being here and for being such an excellent student. It says, what if I want to, quote, unmake a reality? At some point, a reality does not warrant continuance and should be instead be unmade, right? Absolutely agree. Yes, I cheer. Totally appropriate thought structures, because there are some timelines and reality structures that are aberrances. They're things that shouldn't exist. Like sometimes, when I've had this a lot when I first came here into being as Aurora, when I first walked in, I looked at a lot of things. I'm like, technically that should not even exist. There's a lot of problems in the world, blah, blah, blah. I definitely made a catalog of all of them. I'm like, clipboard, problem there, check, 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 lots of problems. And then I look around and I'm like, yes, and technically that shouldn't even really exist. It's totally appropriate to put your energy upward facing pyramid into that's a structure that shouldn't exist. Person, place, or dynamic that shouldn't even exist. There are some things that should be unmade as the appropriate response to what they are, because they are not something that should be there. And then we get into, levels of what this is. We're not talking about genocide. I'm not going to look at a group or a class of people and say, troublemakers, off with their heads, unmake them. This is not a capricious, like Queen of Hearts type of thing, from Alice in Wonderland, or something that is based in ethnocentrism. Like I said, a particular group, class, or appearance of people to say they're troublemakers or they inconvenience me, off with their heads. It's not about that at all. It is really considering the integrity of reality structure. And if you're like, well, everything is screwed up because of that stuff there, and that thing there, and that thing that is embodied as that person there, and none of that stuff is supposed to be in existence. It should be unmade. You put your energy into unmaking. It's not the same as like damning something to hell. You'll suffer eternally in the lake of fire. It is not lake of fire. To unmake something is to send it to an entropy state, which we've talked about a lot in this class, which is why I respect this question that Charlie B is making so much. Entropy is a merciful end to existence for something that should technically not even be in existence in the first place. And if any inner critic comes up and says, who do you think you are? Send things to entropy and unmake them. So who do you think you are not to send things to entropy? Because it's pretty much like sitting around and looking at things that are grossly deformed in the cosmic structure and not doing anything about it. And you do it in a very mature and matter-of-fact way where you're like, yeah, energy shall be withdrawn from that thing. That should not be. And then there is the capacity to completely restructure reality. So there was a kind of a sense, Charlie B, in your question of like asking for permission. I'm not in the business of granting permission, but of reminding you of your freedom. That in cosmic law, you actually exist in a freedom state. And none of this means like free to like rape, pillage, and mutilate. No. Although if you did any of those things, you would also be free to take the consequences of what you've done. And that, basically in cosmic law, when things are not impeded, also, if you have an intention to destroy or harm others, then that intention would be instantaneously reflected back to you. So you're like, wait a minute. If I have the intention to unmake someone else, does that mean I'm going to be unmade? No, it does not. Because if your intention to unmake a situation or a reality is to uphold cosmic structure by unmaking things that are aberrances or, let's say, pathogenic. It's like saying amoebas are not your friend and they don't belong in your tummy. Get them out of your tummy. Some things should not be in reality. And when you envision unmaking them or when you withdraw energy from them, you are actually helping the health of the entirety of the reality structure. So it is totally appropriate for you to do that with your generative capacity in the group sculpture that is known as reality, or the collaborative art form that is known as reality, creation, generation, and sustenance. You withdraw support and you withdraw consent and you withdraw attention and energy from certain things that they should not and shall not be in existence. And it's not like wishing harm on someone at all. So really, when you get up to these levels of using the Merkaba, this is very similar to using types of magic. Magic is reality creation and manipulation, but you must do it in accordance with cosmic law, because if you just go around wishing harm upon people, then yes, you deserve to have harm reflected back to you. If you just go around randomly wanting to kill or mutilate people, then you yourself deserve to be mutilated or killed. If you want to just imprison people because they are inconvenient to you, you yourself should be imprisoned. But if what you're saying is, I've taken a calculated assessment, I have assessed reality structure, and I have found that these are the problems and these are the things that are going wrong, and that those things should be unmade, that's appropriate, because what your intention is everything. Intention matters, and your intention is to restructure reality so that it serves the greater collective and is sustained in longevity. And then, of course, there's chef's choice. If you have done the wrong thing, or if you have something to learn from that, you get gentle lessons. Remember my silly story with the suitcase full of cash? It was a gentle lesson. No fictional characters were harmed in the experience of that lesson, all right? I survived to tell the tale. You learn. If it's like, that's not the way to use the Merkaba, that's not the way to do this, then you do it right the next time. You do better the next time. You are in a very loving cosmos that is continually giving you opportunities not only to mature and grow through the expression and self-expression of your capacitation, but also to learn if you make a mistake. And you have to be humble about that. Be like, SHIT, I made a mistake, and then fix it. And that's what I do in my paintings, that I'm like, I look at it with a very critical eye, and my paintings are very mathematical. And if it's like, this part is green, it's actually supposed to be blue, then I'm like, SHIT, like, I did that. I gotta fix it. Somebody get a razor blade. Like, we gotta cut that out of there, because there's just no erasing. So yeah, we will surgically remove that part and try to fix it up. So yeah, because I don't want anyone in this class to be so handcuffed because you're like, rocking back and forth, like, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to make a mistake. Like, you're here. You're here in order to help and fix things. So you have to be capacitated to do things. Sometimes you make mistakes, like when I broke that flower pot when I was trying to help in the yard work, and then you fix mistakes. So also it is not it's not fatal to make a mistake. But I remind you of your freedom. I remind you of your freedom in your levels of capacitation and perception as you are growing towards God's self-remembrance, and that it's essential for you to do the things that you think are the right thing to do, and also to take full responsibility for the things that you do in the world. So I'm so hyper responsible that I'm responsible in the sense of like, okay, I'm making this video and I'm telling people about the Merkaba, and I'm telling people about reality creation. And if they got the recipe for how to crochet a sweater from me, and then they crochet an ugly sweater, what are my levels of personal responsibility? Like sweating here. It's very hard. There's limitations. There's limitations in terms of like, what are the boundaries of your personal responsibility? Where does your responsibility end? Where does the responsibility of someone else begin? Even though you're all working on the group sculpture of what it is to create and co-create reality together. So you keep all of those things together, and then that is also a big part of the learning process. Because why do we do things as an artist, and why is reality even in existence? For the processes of self-expression and learning. Like, it's not just random arbitrary self-expression. It is very, very intentional self-expression. So Charlie B, the short answer is, you are reminded of your freedom to do these things. You are reminded of your responsibility or mandate to unmake that which is not supposed to be part of cosmic reality structure. And then you are also required to take responsibility for the consequences of your actions, which everybody thinks like cringing, like, responsibility, like I'm waiting for something bad. But responsibility can be this, something good. Good job. Responsibility can be a good job. That thing was over there, was a pile of shit. Good job on unmaking it. Good job on cleaning that up. Good job on getting rid of that. We did not want to have that in reality structure. So that, I think, is a good place for me to end. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful question and wonderment. And Lisa says, thank you for everything. Love you. Thank you, Lisa, and love back to you. And I'm happy that you were able to find the link effectively and be in our class today. So gonna wrap it up. Next week, check out those whiteboards. Do your class, do your homework. Check out those whiteboards for level 1, lesson 2 next week. It's going to be an epic marathon. And thank you very much. I will end the recording. I hope that I got part 1 on the recording for this. Thank you for your patience and accommodation on all of that technological stuff.